Hello, this is Storm Meyer, and this is my presentation for EDU852, Module 7's Why We Must All Become Digital Citizens. First, we need to ask, what is digital citizenship? And I thought digital citizenship could be summarized with a mix of these two pieces, or these two quotes from articles of Go Guardian and Common Sense Education, that digital citizenship refers to the responsible technology usage, as well as the use of technology to learn, create, and participate. And Go Guardian listed a couple of minor points which summarized the idea of what digital citizenship really entails. And those 5 points are information literacy, cyberbullying prevention, online safety, digital responsibility, and health and emotional wellness. And these are the 5 points that they say as to why we should be teaching digital citizenship. So the first piece to promote is information literacy. From Go Guardian and Common Sense Education articles, I summarized that information literacy is quickly sorting through and utilizing information, particularly a large amount of information that we gather from the internet, using the internet to our benefit and learning, to determine credibility and trustworthiness of sources and materials, as well as thinking critically about news and media that we are intaking from all of our devices, and reflecting on your responsibility as a creator putting things into the internet. So, from the Applied Educational Systems article, which was authored by Chris Zook, he described 3 areas of practicing digital literacy: clickbait, fake news, and empathy. And in particular, with clickbait and fake news, he said these are things that we should be aware of, and that we need to educate students on being aware of. So clickbait is oftentimes seen with text, headlines, images, and videos that are trying to get the attention of somebody, and they're trying to elicit a response. In particular, it is used by companies trying to create ad revenue, and sometimes by malicious users who are wanting to infect others' devices with malware and viruses. A general rule of thumb, Zook says, is to don't click on a title that creates an emotional response in you. You should rather instead avoid those emotions, those responses from clicking on them. As for fake news, this is oftentimes tied to clickbait titles, but it refers to any media outlet publishing severely biased or intentionally false information. Zook also says that the rule of thumb here is if it sounds incredibly biased to one ideology type, then it's probably fake news, or it's going to be too biased to take as valid information. Oftentimes, fake news is going to use unflattering images of a person. They're going to have plastered text over a photo, and biased language and vocabulary towards the subject they're talking about. Furthermore, Zook says that we should practice empathy. He says digital literacy requires you to think critically beyond the written text. And this empathy is different than just an emotional response. It involves that critical thinking about the information you're supposed to absorb. And in that empathy, we should teach students to question a writer's motivations and use that thinking to choose how to interact next, right? If we can determine that the writer's motivations was for clickbait or fake news, to elicit a response and create an argument, then we can choose through this critical empathy thinking to not entice it and not interact. But if we can determine that it is not one of those 2 previous things, then we can interact with that in a healthy way and create discussion or develop our own understanding or use of materials. The second big point is cyberbullying prevention. So, according to GoGuardian, cyberbullying prevention is the teaching of students to engage respectfully and appropriately online. And respectful and appropriate online etiquette looks like respectful communication and language, setting clear boundaries, listing online do's and don'ts for your classroom and children, um, teaching them to report inappropriate and uncomfortable behavior seen online to a trusted adult, and then lastly, observing, documenting, and reporting anything that seems like bullying. The third piece is online safety. And I could summarize from GoGuardian and Ribble that online safety is maybe one of the most essential lessons to introduce to students and children for online digital literacy and digital citizenship. Um, and in particular, it's teaching and prioritizing safety of persons, identity, materials, and lives as we integrate our lives with technology and the online media. It also is a protection from potential online threats as they are expanding throughout the world in the ways that they interact. Online safety includes these points: security and guarding your tools and data, such as your computer and the materials that are saved, stored, and used on it. Sharing problems and concerns, again, with appropriate resources and trusted people. Um, Not just sharing things online. And lastly, using protective software and applications that will protect you, your person, and your materials. So, when looking, the Applied Educational Systems article by Zook described teaching digital device security, and this kind of falls into the same aspect where he said there's three things to teach students about, and that is to teach about VPNs, which VPNs basically place a protective shell around your data as it's traveling through the internet, and it helps keep materials and information data secure, private, and from online companies that may want to use it, or from others who may have malicious intent. For smartphone security, he suggested ensuring that your students know how to lock and change codes or ID patterns on their phones, as well as suggesting that you don't post similar photos online to your that are similar to your facial recognition setups, because he says that technology is fallible. They are just systems, and that could be used to hack or steal data, information, things like that. And the last piece was antivirus software. In particular, he says the software keeps your information and devices safe from those who would steal or harm it online through malware and other pieces. And he adds that it's like an extra padlock, trying to protect your possessions, that as if they were in a treasure chest. So the fourth point is digital responsibility. I personally think digital responsibility is probably one of the most powerful here. And it's what digital responsibility is the proper wielding of a great power. We can think of Uncle Ben and Spider-Man. With great power comes great responsibility, and with this responsibility, we have great power with the online and technological tools we're using. It is also creating awareness to navigate the potential threats, such as hacking, piracy, and viruses, how to avoid those, or looking for things that may be harmful, such as clickbait pieces, phishing emails, etc. And as well as educating on plagiarism and other forms of theft and other forms of inappropriate online conduct. Plagiarism and using material that's not allowed to be used is oftentimes one of the largest digital responsibility pieces that we need to teach students. And that is just a continuous practice and etiquette to where we need to cite our sources, much like citing GoGuardian for this point. And lastly, describing potential consequences of inappropriate conduct, such as what will happen if you begin to plagiarize articles. Those should be clear and set expectations early on. So, according to Joseph, um, which is from the Digital Citizenship article, he said that we should use the READY method or acronym, the READY acronym, when modeling digital responsibility. And that is remind, encourage, accountability, demonstrate, yes. So we should remind students to be mindful about what they're making public and that there could be negative consequences to sharing personal information. We should encourage students to also step away from their cell phones and screens when with friends. That the offline and real life are important as well. Um, Accountability. We should create guidelines for how to properly and safely use the internet within our classroom. One of the ways we can do this is by doubling down, having reinforced classroom reminders of district responsible use policy. And then demonstrate. As teachers and educators and staff, we need to be able to model good digital citizenship, promoting a culture of positive online use. If we are in reckless abandon with clicking articles and resources, and that's displayed to our students, they're going to likely do the same. But if they can see and hear our process of acting in good digital citizenship and practicing digital literacy, they will also be able to likely pick up those pieces and develop those practices, as well as demonstrating, teaching on copyright, intellectual property, and fair use, like citing our sources. And lastly, the yes is to be a culture of yes. Joseph says that we shouldn't block out digital tools. We should instead be looking for opportunities to launch and use new things because they can be to our benefit when we use them properly. So I threw in the nice little phrase there, don't block it, let's rock it with proper use. In digital responsibility, the Joseph article also talked about a digital footprint. Students and staff to be thoughtful about what they post because there is no guarantee that the information shared online will ever be removed. It is not just a digital footprint, it is a digital tattoo. So Joseph's driving point here was that what we post could be there forever, like a tattoo, right? So I try to make a nice little graphic here for students that every time you're using one of these online resources, these things, students should ask 5 questions because these things might not disappear ever. And those questions are, number one, what impression does this give? How are people going to view it, right? Whatever you're posting, this picture, a statement, post, video, etc. Number 2 is, do I really want this information out there? Is that something you would want everybody to see, as it's going to be public and accessible? Number 3 is, are you oversharing or just sharing simply too much? Does that need to be put out or seen by other people? Number 4, would I want someone to share this about me or someone else? If you are likely not wanting other people to share that information about you, you shouldn't share it about yourself. And if you wouldn't want someone to share it about you, why would you want to share that about somebody else, right? This is an etiquette and respect thing for other people. And lastly, number 5 on the questions students should ask when using technology, would I be happy to see this on the newspaper, right? And the idea is, if you've seen this on the front page of the newspaper, or more relevant for students, if this was on the suggested for you page in social media, would you be happy that it was there? If not, maybe you shouldn't put it online. And the last big point would be health and emotional wellness when we're looking at digital citizenship aspects. And according to GoGuardian and Ribble, health and emotional wellness in the digital world, the biggest aspect that we have to know is that technology can be an addiction. And there's correlations between technology use and physical and psychological issues, stress, eye problems, body issues, dietary problems, even. And as educators, one thing that we should do is teach students to prioritize health and wellness in all classes. This is not just a biology or a health class thing. This is everywhere, and we do some of that as educators by limiting the amount of online engagement and technology screen use, encouraging frequent breaks, eating well, hydrating, and implementing quality face-to-face time and activity with peers in classes. We should not spend entire class periods in front of a computer. There needs to be still some paper use, there needs to be creativity and building, and there needs to be interaction with peers. So this slide here has several links, and if I were to display this to my staff, I would ask them, for input and ask them to review some of these sources, that are curriculum and resource materials about teaching digital literacy. All of these came from the various articles that we were reading, or were resources provided to us on Module 7. Um, and you can see the common sense education, digital citizenship curriculum, the iSafe materials. The FBI has a safe online surfing program for kids up to 8th grade that involves activities. There's the AES curriculum. Los Angeles County Office of Education has a website with articles about digital citizenship. Google also has a set of curriculum called Be Internet Awesome. And then lastly, there's EverFi. And as I was having staff break out in, some kind of group share Kagan structure, I would also ask them, are there other things that we could use or should be aware of to create stakeholder involvement? As for purchasing in federal laws, the Mendoza article described two things: E-rate, which is also known as the Schools and Libraries Program of Universal Service Fund, which is a federal program to apply to gain funds to purchase and access hardware, internet access, telecommunications. And it says that Bennington High School would be eligible because all K to 12 schools are eligible for this. And discounts range for districts and schools from 20 to 90%, depending on demographics and region. Even furthermore is the Children's Internet Protection Act, which was signed by Congress in 2000. It was passed and signed in 2000, and its main purpose is to address concerns about children's access to obscene or harmful content over the internet. It was updated and added to in 2008, and I'm sure has larger implications now. E-rate it requires that you meet compliance of this before they give funding. And they require districts to educate minors on appropriate online behavior, including social media interactions and cyberbullying awareness. So overall, this assignment correlated with PLO 2 and CLO 2.1 standards because it prompted research about digital citizenship and the importance of being a responsible digital citizen. Educators should work together in their buildings and as districts to ensure that students receive proper information, modeling strategies, and practices to become responsible digital citizens. This will also inform educators about the importance of creating a safe environment for students, while also allowing them to develop the ability to experience continuous learning opportunities through technology. This assignment is relevant. Is quite relevant as we have a one-to-one initiative for devices within my building, Bennington High School, and use a variety of online resources and materials through our online learning management system. This improves my knowledge on what digital citizenship is and how to properly model and reinforce the ideas of ethical and responsible internet use. It also provided resources, curriculum, instruction examples to share with my building leadership team and administration. As for reflection, in my future role as a building administrator and leader, it'll be my responsibility to ensure that digital leadership is being included and taught by the staff that I will work with. We must ensure that students have constructed a proper ethical and responsible use of technology in their education and personal lives. This will further build a cooperation with all stakeholders and help to cultivate the desired culture and environment that my building or district will seek to empower. These are my APA references. And lastly, as a good part of digital citizenship, I got this template from Slides Go, so credit to them for the fun design. Thank you for watching my presentation on digital citizenship.